The Windrose devs are wasting zero time, dude. They dropped a dev blog, roughly 2 days ago, so less than 48 hours, and they immediately put out a patch directly addressing most of the players' concerns and issues, especially related to performance. Check this out. Now, I'm not going to read the full patch notes word for word because it is like 50 plus lines of stuff. We would be here all day, and it's simply obviously boring. But what I am going to do is go over the things that I find most important and most relevant for the people that are watching this video, and I'll also be sure to put the full patch notes link down below in the description, so if you guys are interested and want to read it for yourself, you can do that via that link. Alrighty, so first up, we've got performance and stability. They're already targeting lag, stuttering, and connection issues. The list is pretty long here, and it is kind of filled with, tech jargon, but just know that everything from CPU usage to disk usage for your solid-state drives, they've made several improvements for ship performance on hosting servers, just rare crash instances that we're causing for players. I mean, you name it here, they are definitely focused in on addressing all of these issues to get the game running optimally for every player. Again, I know this isn't fixing everybody's situation that's out there because, again, there's a variety of them and they obviously only have so much time to fix everything in this window, but just know that they are aware of them and they are constantly working what seems to be diligently here as fast as possible to get these out to make sure that the game runs optimally for everyone. Next up, building, baby. This one's for all my builders out there. They are adding a ton, and I mean a ton of pieces, actually more than what I listed off before, which I believe I stated was 40 from their dev blog. Well, it's actually been more than that. It states they've added 40 missing wall triangle pieces for various roof angles, right? For the different sets and stuff that just simply wasn't there beforehand. Well, they've added those in. But on top of that, they've also added 3 missing floor triangle pieces that go to different sets. And they've also added 4 new seedbed variations. And I'm very excited for those seedbed variations because I just got into the farming mechanics here for Windrose. By the way, I'll have a farming guide coming out very soon here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. And then on top of that, related to building, they also added a bunch, or added and kind of changed or, tweaked some of the sound effects related to doing different building things, whether it's placing or destroying, that sort of stuff. Next up, we've got UI and interface changes. Now, I'm not going to list all of these here, but I did pull out the ones that I think are very important, and dude, chef's kiss out here to the developers. The first one is the disassembly station no longer displays equipped gear, and I know this one was a huge one for a lot of players out there, including myself. I was constantly nervous and scared to disassemble, everything in that list because I was afraid that some of it was what I was wearing, and I was 100% right. You constantly had to back out, double check what you had in your hotbar, what you're wearing, and then go back in and make sure you disassemble the right items and not the ones you're currently equipped. So again, definitely a huge change here. The second one brings us to the fast travel waypoints on the map now being on the top layer, meaning you can always click it to fast travel there. You don't have to worry about clicking there if, or clicking on a person's icon if you're playing in co-op, or, clicking on like a faction icon or, a point of interest icon, anything else. The fast travel icon will be on the top layer, so you can always click it fast enough to fast travel. Next up, on top of that, we've got the hide the UI toggle. Now, this one, again, was a big one for me as a content creator. I'm constantly taking screenshots, looking for either thumbnail references or things I can share on social media. And I kept on dealing with every time I would hide the UI, and then I would hit like escape to either like log out of the game or to access another menu, it kept on, not showing it. And sometimes even would go to like a black screen if I tried opening like the map with the UI hidden. So I love to see that. Next up brings us to building and terraforming. Again, some really good changes in quality of life stuff here. The first one is the decorative canopies now count as a roof for crafting stations. Again, very good for people who like to creatively build and put a workstation underneath like a draping canopy or something in the decoration section instead of actually going to the roof section to build a solid roof above it to get that crafting station to work properly. So again, really cool here. The next one they've added is various saplings are now planted with higher density, meaning they have reduced the amount of spacing required for the seedlings when you're placing and making a farm. Again, absolutely love this one here. Allows you to get more plants in a smaller, dense area versus having to have so much space, kind of dead space in between the plants. And lastly, for the building and terraforming section, that brings us to the shovel. They've also added it to where when you are now flattening, utilizing the shovel tool, it takes in account what your player is currently standing on. So it will base the rest of the ground to be up to that, either up to that point or lower to that point to flatten it out based on what your character is standing. Again, very good quality of life change here, especially for my builders out there. And now moving on to some buffs. The first one brings us to, they've increased the drop rate for tainted bile. I believe this is in the swamp, the third biome of the game. They've just increased the drop rate for this material. Secondly, they've also increased the drop rate here of hardwood hardwood. So they've said they've increased it approximately 20%, which means you should be getting a lot more hardwood now from the second foothills biome. And then lastly here, they've fixed the boar's second strike combo animation. It now has a clear telegraph, meaning it'll just go directly to where it needs to go, but it has a longer reach, so be careful. If you guys thought boars were tough beforehand, just wait till you jump in here and check out this one here, because they can reach you from a lot farther than they could before. And now there's a lot more in this patch, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll link it down below for you guys to check out, but I just wanted to point out the things, in my opinion, that actually affect how the game feels and plays for most players. And to top it all off, this part actually matters. The developers stated that they were going to focus on fixing the core game first before adding in new content, and well, they actually did. We got performance, building, balance, and quality of life stuff, and all of these things are what keep players playing, not just new content drops. And if they continue to deliver on this, well, that 6 months we talked about in my previous video will absolutely be worth the wait.
On my shoulders, fur cloak, frost on the braid, long ship lurks in the shallows.